Mr. Vishal Sharma, the founder and CEO of NuvoRetail.
I think it's a partnership that we have with OdinSchool. We are able to get trained people who understand the domain of AI and analytics. After I joined the NDA, AMI was very well for us. I mean, it was a very, very good experience for me. But at the same time, I always wanted to do something more than just being in the armed forces. After coming out of the army, first I had to re-educate myself.
The artificial intelligence that's booming, where do you see the future of artificial intelligence?
If you have the right analytics and right tools in place, you can craft a message which is tailor-made to every single person that you are crafting that message for. I think in today's knowledge world, continuous upskilling is the way forward. You can't succeed in a knowledge-based industry if you don't continue to upskill yourselves.
Today, I'm extremely excited to have this discussion with Mr. Vishal Sharma, the founder and CEO of NuvoRetail. At the onset, I am thankful for you to talking to us and also supporting the OdinSchool Data Science Elite course. Now we at OdinSchool are immensely into putting our efforts into scaling the professionals and ensuring that the skills are on par with the industry standards in data analytics and the artificial intelligence domain right now. And I also have an understanding that NuvoRetail has hired a couple of Odin grads as well, and having an expert with us supporting us is something that gives us immense encourage to do this forward and walk this journey. So Mr. Vishal, today through this discussion, I would like to pick your brain across multiple areas, right from how you conceptualized NuvoRetail to how analytics domain is doing in India right now. So let's get started.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this discussion and coming over to our office to discuss the same. I think it's a partnership that we have with OdinSchool. We are able to get trained people who understand the domain of AI and analytics. They come ready-made to us, so it's kind of a partnership which works for both the parties very well.
Got it, sir. So my first question to you is your journey from armed forces to getting into data science, e-commerce, intelligence. How did that happen? How did the entire journey work from a completely different background to the data science world?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I come from an era when we didn't have too many options. When I passed out my 12th standard, those days only you could become an engineer or a doctor or come into government service, those kind of things. Pre-globalization, the rupee had not opened up for globalization. And that's the time when I cracked the NDA exam and got into NDA. And then after I joined the NDA, AMI was very well for us. I mean, it was a very, very good experience for me. But at the same time, I always wanted to do something more than just being in the armed forces. So in 2008, I decided to kind of move out of the armed forces and try my hand at the CV street. Okay. And after coming out of the army, first I had to re-educate myself. So I went for a management program at IIM Ahmedabad, understood what accounting, finance, marketing, etc. means, which I had no idea of because we didn't have to bother about that while in the army. And then when I got a little hang of it, got into consulting, was consulting for a larger period of my time. And then in 2018, towards the end of 2018, I decided that I should become an entrepreneur now. So I have had three very clear career path changes. So one was into a pure play army as an officer, then 10 years as an entrepreneur, as a corporate citizen, and now almost 5-6 years as an entrepreneur.
That's good.
And about e-com and data analytics. So while I was in Accenture, which was my previous employer and my last employer, I was a part of the consulting team, and then we were doing a lot of projects around analytics.
Okay.
And that's what interested me a lot.
Okay.
So when I had to take this leap forward, I also saw that e-commerce that time was starting off in a big way, and I had a friend who was in the same domain, so I discussed with him, and that's how this came around. So e-commerce plus first came e-commerce and then came analytics. That's how it happened for us.
Got it. That's great to hear about your journey. So if we talk about NuvoRetail, the term in itself is very interesting, and I would like to understand what's the genesis behind it. Plus, as you have already mentioned that e-commerce was on a boom while you were getting into the corporate and you saw a boom. But was there any specific gap that you looked into where you wanted to, see yourself bridging up that gap? So what was that gap?
Sure. So when I started this organization, I was looking for a name, and the whole concept was that Nuvo in some form means new form, new, and retail is what we wanted to transform through technology. So NuvoRetail is like new form of doing retail or commerce, that way. So that is how I coined this term NuvoRetail, and I found a domain for it. Okay. Getting the domain was also important. You need the same domain. So that's how I registered the company and got this domain done. And as far as the gap is concerned, yeah. So e-commerce was starting off that time. Amazon had just started advertising in India, although it was happening in elsewhere in the world. But Amazon had come into India about a couple of years back in 2016-17. They started advertising, and as more and more brands got onto the e-commerce bandwagon, I saw a gap in skills about how to promote their brands and how to promote the products on the platform. And it is towards that gap that I focused on crafting our offerings. And that's what we took forward as the offering to our brands. And that is what has helped us grow for the last 5-6 years.
Got it. So there was a specific gap between the ones who were going on to these e-commerce platforms. They were not being able to reach out to the right sort of segment, and that is where you thought that it is the right moment to get into this segment. Got it, sir. So now, because we are talking about e-commerce and at the same time we are talking about analytics, when you had conceptualized NuvoRetail in the very beginning, if you have to throughout your journey, if you have to mention it across that how analytics has evolved from that time, from back 2018 to now, and if you have to put it together, we would like to hear about that.
Sure. So actually my interest or actual activity in the analytics domain started even before I founded this company, because I was a part of Accenture and there we were using analytics. I was leading a big project around analytics itself in Accenture for a client, multinational client in Malaysia. So that was a very interesting part of my journey with Accenture, and getting multiple data points and making sense out of it and trying to see how it makes a business impact is what we were trying to do over there. We were trying to use analytics to reduce the cost of procurement in a big way. That was the project that we were doing over there. Okay. So this whole, using data to gather insights and then to take business actions is something which interested me a lot.
Okay.
And it is towards that front that when we started off as a company, analytics is not something we started from day one. But we tried to understand what the e-commerce domain is all about, how does the advertising work on our e-commerce domain. And then after we had our hands really dirty and we got a grasp on things, then we started developing the analytics around it. And so in 2019 is when we started giving services. 2020 is when we started developing the analytics platform. Okay. So analytics came, it was already always at the back of my mind. But our investments into analytics happened only once we had a good grasp on the domain itself.
Right, got it. So when you started working on analytics in 2019, and it's 2025, so there's been immense change in analytics, and specifically the artificial intelligence that we're talking about nowadays. It's booming, and it's taking up jobs, but it is also giving a lot of hands-on to the companies to be able to help across their clients. So if you have to implement, like I believe NuvoRetail would be implementing artificial intelligence, how is it helping out, and where do you see the future of artificial intelligence?
Okay. So yeah, a lot has changed since we started doing analytics. My journey of analytics started somewhere around 2016-17, and obviously there's been a long time. So actually, when at that point in time when we were starting with implementation of analytics, there was a lot of groundwork required to get the data done properly, and then a lot of domain expertise were required to actually draw the insights. Now with AI coming in, there are lots of things which have become very easy. So in a way, AI is helping in, I think, 3 ways. One is it's making the implementation much faster for analytics to be implemented within organizations. Second is, in those days, it was only big consultants like Accenture and big companies like our clients who could afford analytics, and gain value out of analytics in their businesses. But now with AI models coming in and analytics engines becoming cheaper and cheaper, I think there's a lot of democratization that has happened. Yes. So smaller companies, SMEs are able to take advantage of analytics in a much faster way, like I mentioned earlier. And third important thing that is happening is that there was a lot of domain knowledge required earlier to draw insights. But with the help of AI, what is happening is that even people who have not necessarily worked in that domain for a lot longer period of time are able to use AI more effectively to draw out insights, which can then help them drive business goals.
Got it. So somewhere or the else, it's absolutely giving a hands-on advantage to all the companies who are using artificial intelligence at the moment. Okay. So Mr. Vishal, coming up to the e-commerce domain that you started with. E-commerce and data science all together, where is it heading, and how is it giving the advantage to the customers out there?
Oh, very good. So this is a domain which is very, very close to my heart, the intersection of marketing and AI and analytics. So I think the way things are happening today and the way things are going to happen in the future are very, very interesting. If you look at classical marketing, so you had to make cohorts, based on certain parameters, whether it was lifestyle or their consumption patterns. So, and then you had to create content which would target that particular cohort. But with analytics and AI, you can have personalization at scale. So ideally, if you have the right analytics and right tools in place, you can craft a message which is tailor-made to every single person that you are crafting that message for. So personalization at scale is something which can happen big time with use of analytics and AI, which will help marketing big way. The second big thing that is happening is the way people are discovering brands. So earlier, a lot of emphasis was on trying to figure out the impact by using third-party tools. But now what happens is that you have a lot of data coming in from the app platforms itself, which can be consumed by analytics engine and can be analyzed by AI to tell you exactly which kind of creative, at which placement, on what platform give you what kind of results. And then you can double down on the ones which are helping you grow faster, and the ones which are not giving you the intended results, you could dial down the investments into that. So those kind of quick analysis, quick insights on what is helping you reach your business goals and where is it that you are not able to get your money's worth is very, very easily accessible to brands and advertisers now with the use of analytics and AI. And the third big thing which I'm seeing is that the the platforms where the consumption is happening and the platforms where the people are engaging on. So where they are mostly spending their time are actually two different platforms, and that is the reason why you need to integrate the data from multiple data sets where people are, like, whether it's Meta or Google, YouTube, etc., or Amazon, MX Player, and versus where they're buying it from, which could be your QCOM platforms or your Amazon, etc. So integrating data from both of these channels, and then trying to see how the customer journey has been across and how the multiple touch points actually convert. That is very interesting, and that is something which we are helping our brands understand, and that's where we are focusing on.
Got it. So now, because we're talking about the piece where all of this multiple things, gathering data from one place and then being able to visualize and draw insights through it, plus mention it out to your different brands that okay, this is where you can hammer and this is where you can grow. And where you're not growing. So all those pieces, telling them their SWOT all together, you are doing that from base zero, right? And I trust NuvoRetail would also require that sort of talent to be able to do this across. So have you seen now, because you might be continuously hiring not just people who understand e-commerce, but also people who understand data analytics and artificial intelligence in today's time. Do you see that there's a gap between what is the industry needs, what is the requirement, the job description within the company, and the person who's coming to you? Is there a skill gap that you see within the industry? And if at all there is, what would you like to tell the audience that how this gap can actually be managed across and can be brought down?
Yeah, so you're right. So typically one goes through a typical 4-year engineering kind of a program. There are a lot of theoretical concepts which a person goes through, but where the practitioners are today is way ahead. And it'll always be like this, so there will be always a gap between what the industry wants and what structured curriculum can actually deliver, because by the time the knowledge gets into a structured mechanism, it takes a little while. And there's a very fast change of pace that is happening. In earlier times, there was a Moore's law which talked about how quickly, the number of transistors on each square inch actually double every 18 months or so. But now what is happening is with the help of AI, the same rapid pace of change we've seen in knowledge-based things like analytics. So what could take longer time earlier, with newer models coming in, new AI stuff coming in, things are changing at a very rapid pace. And as a result, I think the training institutions which are going through a structured curriculum are still trying to catch up with the data strengths. Now, I've also seen there's a lot of industry interaction happening with the colleges and people like us, which benefits both the parties. But at the same time, I think the people who are actually working in the industry will always expect a little bit more from the people that they're hiring. Generally, we hire for skill, for talent and less for skills, because I believe skills can still be taught, but talent is something which is difficult to get by.
Right, absolutely right. I agree with the point that talent is difficult to come in and skills are still easier to grasp. This could be an important question for most of our viewers in OdinSchool. When it comes to the intersection like e-commerce, data analysis and artificial intelligence, if somebody has to get into such a domain, what sort of skills do they have to carry when they are applying for such companies?
Very good question. So I think there are certain skills that can be taught, in a classroom setting, and there are certain skills you will have to learn when you're on the job. At least in our organization, what happens is that one of the pillars for our growth is continuous learning, and we spend a lot of time and effort in training our people on the latest technologies, tools, etc. We are also an early adopter of most of the tech that comes in. So for any person who's trying to get into this domain, I think you need to have exposure on multiple things rather than only on one thing today. You need to have little bit of business knowledge, little bit of knowledge around what analytics tools are available, and also what kind of new models on AI are coming, which can help you become a better analyst or a better business person. Okay. So I think it's a combination of all three that I would look at. I would not go purely based on one of these skills, but somebody who has a keen eye on all of these.
Okay, got it. So when you hire these candidates from being it fresher or being it lateral hiring, do you encourage cross department person getting into a completely different domain? For example, if somebody is coming from a BCom background and they have the right skills like SQL, Python, they have understanding of all of these as well as machine learning and artificial intelligence, do you encourage that they can go ahead and build their skills or build their career into such domains?
Definitely. So we have a very open policy where people can shift their roles, although we are not very big like a multinational or something, but in most cases I've had people who've joined me as an e-commerce analyst but then have moved on to a tech role, or vice versa. So we've had people who came on for a tech role but then they decided to move on to an e-com role. So those kind of migrations are very well possible. The only thing I expect from people who want to do this migration is that they should have some interest in the role that they are applying for. And we give them the same benefit of doubt as we would give to a new joiner. We give them a couple of months to kind of learn the new skills and then contribute towards the growth of the company. We've had very good results with people who come with diverse backgrounds. We don't look at, in fact, we use a standardized skill test for most of the hiring that we take, and we use a standardized platform for that. And for each role, we kind of have an assessment where we expect people to do. So we don't spend too much of time on the educational background or something, but more on to testing of the skills and the talents of the people who are applying for the job. And since we use a standardized way of testing, so that removes all the biases, and only the people who've actually scored very well on that, they're the ones who come for the next rounds. That's how we do it. I think in today's knowledge world, continuous upskilling is the way forward. You can't succeed in a knowledge-based industry if you don't continue to upskill yourselves.
Yes, absolutely right. And that's happy to know that NuvoRetail is opening the doors to even students who have a different background but have the interest in learning as well as in putting themselves into the use of e-commerce, data science and artificial intelligence. Now, because you're talking about the people in NuvoRetail, I would like to understand the culture. How have you built the culture at NuvoRetail?
I think that's a very, very difficult and a very, very long drawn process. Culture gets built over a long period of time. Yes. There are certain values that we give a lot of importance. These are values like being focused on the client always, having a mindset to continuously innovate, having a learning culture so that we continue to learn as an organization, also collaborate within the team members.
Right.
So we believe that if people do all of this and use tech to do all of this, whether it's in the form of analytics or whether it's in the form of AI, I think we can have a organization which can grow much faster than the peers, collaboratively using technology, having a sharp focus on the client. I think these are values that are extremely important to us, and that's what we've been trying to build within the organization. I also keep telling the team that we need to reach a stage where we reach a level where there's no follow-up required from anyone, whether it's a client or whether it's an internal task. Everybody takes the responsibility and does their job in time. That's, I think, very, very important for us.
That's good to hear. That's very good to hear. Now, as you mentioned that you have built up this startup since 5-6 years and it's thriving, because I went through your page and recently come across that you've partnered with Amazon. So congratulations on that. How do you tell somebody who's a young professional who's looking into getting into their careers at a very starting stage, and if they get an opportunity through a startup, sometimes they feel scared about getting into a startup because there's a myth that in a startup things are very different as compared to a company that is established since a long time. So if somebody, a young professional, is getting into a startup, what sort of advice would you like to give to that person?
So actually it's not a myth that startups are different from well-established companies. It's very simple. There are people who prefer to be a small fish in a big pond, and there are people who want to become a big fish in a small pond. It's a choice, and it's an individual choice. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but in case of more established organizations, multinationals and traditional organizations, you have the stability and a structure around it, and which helps people in some form or the other. But at the same time, people who are more adventurous and who want to try out new things, which I think a lot of millennials today want to do, so I think working in a startup gives you a better career choice today, because you are able to shift gears over there. We've had examples where people tried a role, did not like it, applied for a different role. Now that kind of flexibility is available in a startup. That is one. Second is, in case if the startup is in the right domain at the right time, I think the amount of growth that you can get in a startup is much better than what you can get in a structured organization, because in a structured organization it is more based on the tenure. So the longer that you're in an organization, you keep getting those promotions and those things at that scale. But in a startup, in case if you are able to move the journey from 0 to 100 within a short time, I think you can benefit from that also. So these are a couple of things. So, and obviously when you work in a small organization, things may not be as much defined. So one ability that a person should have is to be able to work in areas which are a little grey, where everything's not very structured, and still make a large impact over there. So if a person is ready to take that challenge, I think startup is the way to go.
Got it. The last question that I have for you is, if you have to give a suggestion to somebody in their early stage, or even experienced, but coming from a completely different background, if they have to shift to data analysis or take up their career into data analysis, what that suggestion would be?
So I think no matter which part of the industry are you in, I think data and analytics is going to be the cornerstone, and analytics and AI also. So I think it's no longer vertical. I think it's more of a horizontal today. So whichever domain you might have, if you learn the skills of analytics and AI, it's going to help you become better in whatever you're doing. So AI is, in my mind, I'm very clear, AI is not going to be a different vertical itself. It is something which is going to work alongside the people who are working in a particular domain, and make that person who's using AI much more effective than a person who's not using AI. So in today's world, I think anybody who's from any industry, I would strongly encourage them to see what is possible with the help of analytics and AI, rather than taking it as a separate course as such. So learning the skills of analytics and AI, but using it to do whatever job they're doing in a much more effective and better way.
Got it. Absolutely, I completely agree with the point. How it is gonna, it's gonna work out as a combination rather than a completely different vertical. Thank you so much, Vishal sir, for joining us today, and it was a pleasure understanding about your journey as well as the journey of NuvoRetail so far. One last question I have now, because NuvoRetail and OdinSchool has been connected since a while now. How has been your experience and journey working with us so far?
I think it's been fantastic. We've been able to source candidates from your school. They come with certain skills, and then we are able to adapt them to our environment very quickly, both from a student perspective and from the people who have been interacting with me on the school's behalf.
Right.
They have been extremely proactive. They have been reaching out to me, trying to understand what kind of requirements we have, and then try to fill that skill, that talent gap that we have. So I think we are very happy to have worked with your school.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure to have you onboarded, especially on the Data Science Elite course front, and we are looking forward to have multiple such sessions with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.